We are in Cambridge on one of these beautiful punting boats with
Mateja Jamnik.
Mateja, and can you please tell us what you do?
I'm Professor of Artificial Intelligence here at the University of Cambridge in the Department of Computer Science and Technology. And I basically build AI systems that are more human-like.
And what projects are you currently working on?
Oh, I'm working on loads of projects. I've got quite a large team.
Do you have a favorite one?
No, they're all my favorite actually. But let me just tell you maybe a few of them. So that there's an overarching theme, which is that I'm interested in making AI systems more trustworthy. And so we approach this from very technical perspective. So we are interested in explainability, for example, of these black box systems. And we're developing techniques to sort of break this black box ceiling, if you like.
A lot of people, it seems, from my personal experience, describe these black box systems as a bit dangerous. Not in a, physically as a physical danger, but so much is going in, no one knows what's happening, and something comes out.
Yes.
How would you describe that to maybe other viewers who don't know as much? Is there something to worry about these black box systems?
Yes, so these, they're known as deep neural network, and the problem with them is that they're so highly complex inside, so non-linear, that when you put stuff in, the data in, and the things that comes out, the predictions that come out, you have no idea how how the model has come up with that prediction. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build inherently explainable deep neural networks so that when they make a prediction, they make it in terms of concepts that are human interpretable, so that you and I understand. So if the model says it's this thing is an apple, this fruit is an apple, it will say it's an apple because it's red and it's round and it's got a stalk, for example, and we understand this, rather than in terms of high level or low level, if you like, pixels in an image or whatever like that. So we are trying to basically make these deep learning models inherently explainable. So, which is obviously, it's really important, right? Because if you want to deploy this in safety critical applications like healthcare, then you really want to know why the prediction has been made, right? So
it definitely, is such a hot topic at the moment.
Yeah.
Going a tiny bit back in time, we did a bit of background research and know that you did this TED Talk. How was it doing a TED Talk? How did it feel?
Yes, that was a while back. Yes, I did TED Talk. How was it? Scary. It was definitely scary. It's large audience and it stays there for posterity, but it was also absolutely illuminating and inspiring, and it's probably one of the things that I've done where I learned the most from. Like, I was coached how to present, how to like the lessons that I've learned from that I still employ in my everyday teaching in the university.
And going back, if you could put yourself in your shoes when you did the TED X presentation, do you think you could have imagined how the current kind of tech, AI, data landscape is? Do you feel as if even back then you knew what the progression was going to be? Or does the current state of affairs in May 2024, would that have shocked you back then?
I wouldn't say shocked me, because we don't really, 10 years ago, people were talking about these catastrophic threats of AI, and we knew then that the threats are much more low scale and sort of more subliminal than these catastrophic Terminator style scenarios.
And what would you say are the threats, the current threats?
I think the danger really is in how we are deploying AI and how we are using it, and it's not about how they're going to replace humans. It's about how humans use them and misuse them. So, like the stuff that is placed in front of you in terms of information consumption that is driven by AI algorithms is much more insidious than big robots taking over the world, right? Because it's shaping public opinion, and I think that those are much sort of lower level kind of threads that you could almost overlook, but I think in the long run they absolutely shape the society.
So your TED Talk was 7 years ago. What has changed since that time?
A lot has changed, and I guess the biggest thing I would say is that at the time the people were really concerned about these big catastrophic questions, whereas I think that today everybody's embracing AI. I don't think that anybody's really questioning whether we should or we shouldn't use AI. I think that people are just using it. So we have moved on from those types of questions. Of course, we now, because everybody it's part of our everyday's lives, you know, like people are using large language models, right, left and center, right?
And do you feel as if you can tell when students are using AI?
Definitely, we can tell, yes. Do you know, there was this piece of research which was basically analyzing the papers that were submitted and published last year and the frequency of the occurring words. And of course, certain words like ChatGPT type word, leverage, was highly more frequently used than ever before. Of course, yes, people are using large language models all the time.
And what do you think are ideas to maybe, you know, go against that? Maybe a better question is relating to the teaching. The teaching maybe at University of Cambridge that you do. Do you feel as if the students are well educated on how to use AI or not?
Whether they're well educated, well, we try to educate them, and obviously we permit the use of Gen AI only for certain circumstances because we obviously have pedagogical aims as well. But I think that the people who are going to do well in the future are the people who are going to know what are the right places to use and for what right purposes to use these generative models. And we're trying to teach our students that, yes.
So what are the good versus bad uses of AI, and is there a clear line in between what is good and what is bad when it comes to AI?
No, I don't think that there is. I mean, it depends what you're trying to achieve and what your purpose is. If we are asking a student to write an essay on something, then obviously to ask ChatGPT to write it for them is a bad use of AI, right? Yeah. But if you are doing your research and you're trying to find out stuff about a particular subject, then using ChatGPT is just fine as long as you're aware of its weaknesses, like that it could hallucinate some information or present you with stuff that looks super plausible, but is in fact totally made up.
Can you explain what hallucinating means in the realm of AI?
Technical term right now. It's used as a technical term. It means that when you ask ChatGPT or a large language model or generative AI to a question, it comes back with an answer that looks quite plausible because it's often situated in facts, but it's completely made up. Like it could completely made up a citation with a reference that doesn't exist, so it's basically hallucinating information.
Yeah.
Is making it up, basically.
So, Mateja, can you tell us why AI hallucinates?
So hallucinations means that they're like making up stuff, making up facts that are not really facts. And why do they do this? Well, generative AI models are basically synthesizing new information based on vast amounts of data that they've got. So if it looks close enough to what it should be, then it might generate it. And so in some cases this is completely fabricated, and in most cases is just fine. It's based on previous information that it has. So
how are you collaborating, and are you even collaborating across Europe? With what institutions or who are you collaborating with?
Yes, I am collaborating with lots and lots of people, and also in a very interdisciplinary kind of way. So, I mean, for us, the science playground is the whole world, right? So we are working with mathematicians, cognitive scientists, philosophers, medics, educationalists across the world. So in America, in Europe, I mean, everywhere.
Do you think there are any cities, let's say across Europe, that are, you know, these data centers for research, collaboration and AI?
There are lots of places in Europe that are really good, and you know, in the UK we've got all the well-known universities, right, where we are doing AI research and collaborating through the Alan Turing Institute as well. In Europe, like ETH Zurich is really well known, and then there are like in America and in Canada, like in Montreal and in Toronto, the Vector Institute and Mila and so on. So there are, and in the States there will be all the big universities. But and obviously there are companies that are playing a huge role here because they have the resources and the compute that they can do that.
Let's chat ChatGPT. What's your opinion on ChatGPT?
About what?
Just its release, how it came out to the world. I watched a recent interview actually. I think it was at Harvard.
It was at NeurIPS deadline. It was at NeurIPS conference in December 22, right?
Yeah, it could be.
I was in New Orleans at the NeurIPS conference when it came out.
And so, yeah, how do you feel ChatGPT has affected the current landscape of data across the world?
It's not so much about the data. Is a fact of at least from researchers' point of view, for us, it's more the fact of that it's a proprietary model, and we would like to, if we want to use it, we would like to tune it, and we would like to have access, to an open model so that we can use it for our purposes where we are deploying it.
So, do you have any open source companies that you think are doing a better job than ChatGPT?
Yes, the big contender is Mistral 7B, so definitely. I think that's what we need. We need open models so that researchers can actually use them, right, and look inside them and then combine them with our own, creative ideas and techniques and things that we're specializing for. Like, for example, we are particularly interested in, combining these statistical methods like the neural nets with symbolic methods in order to improve on trustworthiness and correctness of the solutions that they're presenting to us. So we're building sort of neurosymbolic models.
So are you working...
But you can't do that unless you have access to an open model, right?
And are you working inside of your academic space with Mistral, for example?
I don't, but my students do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what type of things do they do with Mistral? How do they use
they
it?
just released the new 7B model, right? Like one of my PhD students, he's a key architect there. So.
Wow,
that's
crazy.
Cool, huh?
Yeah. So we've done some research and found women at CL. That's one of your projects that you have going on the side?
Yes, it's going on, yes. In 2013, Ursula Martin and I founded this national UK network for women in computer science research. And so we got some money from companies and from the Research Council. So we established this network where we basically got organized a whole bunch of events for different groups of people, from undergraduate students onwards to professors, female professors of computer science, and basically we had the idea was that we're going to create this network to support women and create a program of activities that is kind of sustainable, and it comes from grassroots. So there are local events like just within university departments, there are regional events which are all research based, and then there are national events where we have like national talks or senior women's summit or things like that. And we did this in 2013, so it's been going on for like 21 years now, and we passed it on to the British Computer Society, some of our events, and lots of it has been replicated across the UK in other universities and organizations.
And so when's the next event?
We've just had it. We had a 20th anniversary like a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. And 20th anniversary, but you said 2013?
I actually lied. I meant 2003.
Oh, okay, perfect. So founded in 2003. Congratulations. Yes. You've been going on for 20 years. Yes. That's very impressive. What have been the achievements of women at CL so far?
So that's, I guess it's very hard to measure, right, in quantitative terms.
Yeah, what data do you use to measure that?
But I can tell you that if you want to measure success, I think one metric would be that thousands of people have participated in our events. Organizations have actively wanted to replicate our program of activities, and women who do take, or people who do take part in them, find it extremely helpful. Especially, we provide role models, we peer-to-peer mentoring, things like that. So, and if you look at, actually, I'm not sure whether you can put the causality in there, but the percentages of female undergraduates and female academics now, in comparison to 20 years ago, has increased quite a lot. It's still nowhere where we would like it to be, but in comparison, it's much improved.
So you would say since 2003, the gender and non-gender landscape has been changing?
In computer science, yes, it has been improving. Let's put it this way. It's really not. It's nothing to brag about yet.
Yeah.
So, but I think that there are certain practices that are now like completely normal for everybody because it's good for everybody. Whereas 20 years ago, we had to like fight for them or persuade people that we should really do it this way and things like that.
Yeah. What are your tips and guidance for students who want to go into AI?
I would say be curious because, it's the first time in the history of humanity where we have all this knowledge at our fingertips. So be curious, find out about things, play with the technology. It's, break the technology, take advantage of all the opportunities, like ask about projects that you could join, internships, those kinds of things. I mean, there's so much going on, and the more you learn about it, I'm sure the more inspired and creative you'll become.
How do you manage the data in your collaborations across Europe, across the world? Where is all this data stored, and how do you share the information? Google Drive?
No, we have the university repository that we are using, where we are also running our models for training in our local compute, which is, I guess, pooled together. So it depends who's the sort of the leader of the project. So we're working with we're working with cognitive scientists from MIT, for example. So we are the computational people. So we are running and training all the models, and building the frameworks and systems, and they are the ones who are helping us design what sort of questions we should ask, because they've been building computational models of human cognition for ages, and they're experts in that. And we would really like to make our systems more human-like. So we're collaborating with them.
So does Cambridge or the University of Cambridge have a data center?
Yes.
Where it stores all the data?
We have data centers, and we have a high computing facility.
Yeah.
So that high power computing facilities, so where we can run our models, train our models.
And
it's never enough.
What would you say are the biggest challenges when collaborating across different institutions?
I think the biggest challenges are, it's not so much about collaborating across institutions. I think our challenges are that we are highly ambitious and creative, and we struggle with, our students struggle with access to enough compute resources. And the other thing is that a lot of the data is proprietary, and sensitive. So we are trying to get hold of the data so that we can run our frameworks and systems. Yeah.
Talking about security, what is your relationship with cybersecurity across all your projects? How do you secure your data? Do you have the trust in the data servers, in the university's data servers? Do you think about cybersecurity a lot in your job?
Yeah, of course. We have we're very much aware of what the law is really about, and who can share what, and where it needs to resign, and who can be privy to, the details of our data, how we have to anonymize anything we collect, and so that it can't be de-anonymized. And we are very careful about this, but I think that that's just responsible research.
Yeah. What would you like to see more of in the future with interdisciplinary collaborations?
One of the things that we find challenging is, because we work with medics, with oncologists, is to acquire sort of like high quality curated data. And because we're working in the area of personalized medicine, right? So we're building techniques to integrate all this variety of data that oncologists collect about each patient. So we're trying to help with the analysis to identify rare diseases and stuff. So you really need a large amount of data that you've seen those cases lots of time, and that in medicine just is not often the case, right? Because you do clinical trials with only a handful of patients and so on. So we really need to have this high quality curated data, so that the more data you have, the more you can deal with biases in the data, the more accurate and reliable your predictions can be.
So you're talking about how important it is to have as much data as possible. What are the ethical concerns, though, about asking for as much data as you can, but without actually having a plan of what data you're going to use in the end? So what are the ethical concerns?
Well, we will use all of the data that is there. So, and we are in fact building techniques that can deal even with noisy data and data with missing information and that kind of thing. So we find in practice, that people are quite happy to share the information about them, so their data for research purposes. Of course, we anonymize it, so it's safe, so they can't ever be identified. No. So I don't think that, if I go to the doctor as a patient, that it's a problem if that data is being used for research. I don't think that this is actually a challenge here. It's just that the fact that, there are certain rare diseases or cases where you need quite a lot of it to have reliable predictions about it. And so if you can pool all of that information together, and sort of federated learning techniques are trying to achieve that, so that even the doctor out in the sticks who sees this case only once could use models from a big university teaching hospital that has seen those much more before. But I think that it's expensive and hard to get really good quality and curated data.
Expensive for the owners of the data sets?
It's expensive to curate the data, basically. It takes a lot of work to prepare the data. First to collect, second to prepare it for processing, right? Yeah. So,
what's the best data set you've ever analyzed?
I don't think that I can say what's the best, because it depends on what your purpose is, right? So I can tell you several exciting ones that we've used. We've used the biggest one in oncology, for example. Then we used data sets they're open source from Wikipedia to build ontologies. We've used the formal data sets about, to try to formalize mathematics and stuff with large language models. So it really depends what you're doing.
I maybe have a better question. What's the worst data set you've ever received, where you've been on a research project and got a data set through and you've been like, oh my gosh, how are we going to work with this?
I don't think that also, it's not quite like that. You always get the thing and you need to do the best you can with it, right? So it's not like, is it bad, is it good? It's like, how can I make it so that I can do my research, so I can test my algorithm, so I can test the performance of my model. So you work with what you've got, right? It's not like this is the worst one ever and I'm going to throw it away.
Yeah. Or cancel the project.
Or cancel the project. Yeah, you wouldn't do that.
Can you tell us about the current state of legislation around AI and data in Europe?
There isn't very much legislation around it. I mean, there is existing legislation that is not AI specific, apart from the GDPR, which is about the fact that if a decision is made about the human by an algorithm, there needs to be an explanation for that decision, which is a problem for deep learning models, and hence that's why we work in the area of explainability. But all the rest that is there is not AI specific. It's for security, sharing, and that kind of stuff. So it applies in AI too. So there's a whole bunch of ethical, voluntary guidelines and things that companies are trying to promote that they adhere to because of in the wake of all this fear about progress and deployment of AI. Personally, I think that at some point we will need to have some level of regulation. In fact, we should have some level of regulation now, but not to stymie the research. But it's more about, what's acceptable.
Do you think more time is needed? More years are needed before this legislation can be set? Or do you think it needs to be pedal to the metal, do it now?
The time is now. The time is now to find out, to study this and make smart decisions about it that are going to be productive for the future use and the society, but also that are not going to stymie the research, that are not going to prevent creative research from happening.
If you could snap your fingers right now and something would change in your field, what would it be? If you could change something with a flick of a wand?
I'd like to have lots of data and lots of compute.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think that's a perennial problem for academics.
More data, more computing power. Can you summarize AI in a couple sentences?
Tall order, right? Okay, so what is artificial intelligence? There isn't a definitive definition, but there are various ways that people understand it. But anytime a system is thinking and making decisions in a way that the human would and is able to learn, then that's artificial intelligence. So, for example, when your phone learns about how you speak, or when your shopping account learns what you like, or your TV box learns what genre of film you like, that's all learning, and so it is AI. It's intelligent behavior. If humans would do it, we would consider it to be intelligent. So,
Mateja, thank you so much for your time today. This is such an incredible experience, and yes, just thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was fun.